Good morning, everyone. It is really dark out. 6:30 in the morning for tea with Atlas and Elsa. Might need to get moved a little bit later. We're going to see how we do. We've got a little bit of a light so that you can see us, but fall is coming. So today we have Atlas over my left shoulder, and then we have Zohari over my right shoulder. Zohari has been in our big pasture at night for the summer season. And as it gets colder, we switch that around. So he's in the pasture during the daytime, and at night he's here taking care of Alice. Ordinarily, I would have Zohari in the pasture full time, but I really need him to help me with Alice over here. Keep Alice socialized, keep him interested in being with others, whether it's other horses or other people. So Tuesday morning tea with Elsa. For those of you guys just joining, welcome. This has become kind of a fun thing I do every week. I pick a different subject to talk about every week. If you guys have something you'd like to hear me talk about, absolutely let me know. This week, I thought I'd talk a little bit about instinct. Our instincts are really important, but they also don't always serve us. And we have to figure out how to navigate the importance of trusting our instinct at the same time as building better instincts. So Atlas, who you can see peeking over my shoulder, his instincts are all about run away from people, and if that doesn't work, hurt people or attack people or threaten people. And we're having to rework those instincts. Now, if he thinks carefully now, he is not likely to do any of those things. He is in a thinking state, and we get more yielding, more playing, more interaction. But if he's not in a thinking state, if he goes into his instincts are to get away or fight back. And I think that we need to learn how to train instinct so that instinct becomes things that really serve the relationship more. Because when it comes down to it, we're always going to fall back on instinct. We're going to fall back on our patterns. We're going to fall back on that thing that happens without thinking. And if we can train to an extent that without thinking becomes reasonable, then instinct is really going to serve us. Now, Zohari over here, his instinct is very generous. Zohari's instinct is to slow down. This makes him really lovely to be around. Just about anybody can spend time with Zohari here because for the most part now, when he isn't thinking, he just stops. And if he could teach Atlas how to do that, Atlas's life with people would be a lot better, because if the default is to slow down, stop, pause, that gives you time to then think about what your next best option is. When you are stressed, when a horse is stressed, they're going to do one of three things. They're going to go into fight, they're going to go into flight, or they're going to go into freeze. Now, freeze has sort of a bad connotation because we think of it as being shut down. And it certainly can be that. But in a lighter sense, freeze can also be an opportunity to regroup, to assess the situation. I actually think freeze can be a really beneficial thing to teach a horse. If you don't know what else to do, just pause for a moment. Now, that's in normal horse human interactions. If you have an upper level jumping horse, freeze is not going to be so much your friend. Maybe you want to teach them to move when in doubt, because they're going to be handled by people who are very experienced, who can handle that kind of reflex movement. You have to know what your horse is set up for. Most of my horses are set up for being really good human partners, which means if they don't know what else to do, it's important to just pause, just wait. I'm really excited that Atlas is starting to look at us from both eyes, not just one eye. He's switching back and forth between his left eye and his right eye. In most of the training I do, we work on teaching a horse to think more and react less. But today I wanted to talk about the inevitable reactions and how they're going to happen sometimes. There's no way any of us can be fully present and thinking in all moments. It just doesn't happen. So what we do is we set up situations where it's okay to stop thinking for a moment. It's okay to react. And we try and set them up so the patterns for reaction are patterns that are good ones, that we could repeat. So the way I train this is, I love those ears poking over my shoulder. Good morning, Atlas. The way that I teach this is to think about being like the horse when the horse is being a partner that you appreciate, okay? So that means that for Atlas, we spend some time. Good morning, Zohari. I love that big snorting sound. So for Atlas, we spend a fair amount of time letting him freeze. Freeze is, of the three options, fight, flight, or freeze, freeze is more workable in the relationship with him and I than fight or flight. So that means if his ears stop moving, his eyes stop moving, and he just gets real still for a minute, I'm going to give that 3 or 4 breaths and just let that be normal between us. That willingness to let them freeze for a few breaths and make that normal means it's going to start becoming the instinct. When you don't know what else to do, just pause for a moment. If you can't think of what comes next, just be still. And then you'll figure it out. This is really important for me in my work also. Okay, so Zohari here, he and I ride up to the big pastures every day and back to the paddocks every day. So I get to ride him twice a day. Sometimes I walk on my own feet, but I do ride him fairly often. I've had him for 25 years now. Zohari and I have a lot of really fun history. Interestingly, my instinct when I'm riding Zohari is I tend to want to say, let's go faster, let's go faster, let's go faster. And I can get a little bit nagging to go faster with him if I'm not careful, because I have 25 years of patterns built with him saying, let's do something interesting, let's do something fun, let's take a canter, let's take a gallop, and you know what? I love this horse. He's 25 years old now. He's given me everything of himself. And I've realized that it's time to start building a new habit. And the new habit with him is be like Zohari. So that means if he wants to be slow, take 3 or 4 breaths to be slow like him. And then from a thinking place, I'm going to ask for more speed, more yield, more something that will make him more comfortable riding with me. But the habit that I need to train is to be like him. Now, here's the good news. If I can train the habit of being like my horse as my default, as my instinct, then whether they go into fight, flight, or freeze, I'm set because I can match them. Okay, if a horse goes to pin their ears and bite or kick at me, Fight is going to be something like jumping in the air or throwing my hands in the air, and I'm not going to have time to think about it. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to throw my body around dramatically, and that's in that fight category, coming into someone's space in a way that makes them uncomfortable. If I match a horse when they go to fight me, it usually shuts it down really quickly. It's usually a pretty safe thing to do, unless they're cornered. So hopefully I'm not working in a place where my horse is cornered. Hopefully I'm working in a place where they have plenty of space to step away from me. Now, if my horse goes into flight, if my horse goes to run away from me and I'm on the ground next to them, if my whole training is match your horse, then without thinking, I'm going to run the other way. They run one way, I run the other way. We had this agreement that flight was the thing that we did in that moment. Or maybe we run together. But the idea is that running is the thing that's happening. And if my instinct is to be like my horse, we build the bond. Now, freeze is the easiest of the three. Okay, but not always for someone like me who's a little impatient with my horse here that I know so well. I always want to knock him out of freeze. And there's value in taking him out of freeze into thinking, absolutely. But the point is to do it consciously myself. In all those moments where I am not thinking clearly, I'm going to have to rely on my instinct. And I want to train my instinct to be like my horse as the default. So Atlas and I spend a lot of time in the paddock together, just being together. And I want him to think. I want those ears to move. I want those eyes to move. I want him to lean in and engage and work with me. But I have to remember there's a default pattern behind that. And the default pattern that we really want to build is when you don't know what to do, just wait. Just pause. Okay, Atlas is not going to be an upper level jumper. He's not going to be required to do anything where flight should be his default. Freeze is going to be the most reasonable default instinctual pattern for Atlas. And so I really need to nurture that. When you can't think, wait. I'll match you. I'll be there with you. And then in turn, that develops my ability to build my instinct, which is when you don't know what else to do, be like your horse. And then when you're done being like your horse, you can think and process what's the best action for me to take. How do I want to motivate my horse? How do I want to move around my horse? What's my best choice for me from a thinking place? I just think that we need to take a little time and acknowledge the fact that we will not be in a thinking place all the time. And when we are not in a thinking place, what is our default instinct? Your default instinct is going to be what you practice. So with Zohari over here, I've spent 25 years practicing. Let's go faster. Let's do something more interesting. And I have to retrain that a little bit and really focus on a different way of being with him, because that's not our life anymore. Our life is more collaborative than it was when I was 18, 19 years old. The kind of life I want with horses is a life where I make some of the decisions and they make some of the decisions. But both of us put concerted effort into developing habits and patterns so that our instinctual choices are good ones. And for the most part, that means that we need to practice. When in doubt, pause. Just wait. Just take a moment. You don't have to know what to do. Just take a moment. And in my case, as a trainer, when I don't know what to do, my default instinct needs to be match my horse. Now, there's going to be times when I know that there's a complementary action that would be better than matching my horse. That's great. That means I'm in a thinking state of mind. I know that if my horse goes to flight, that maybe just being really still is the thing that's going to help them more than matching them. And that's great. If I can think my way through it and choose the best action, always the first choice. Second choice, though, if I don't know what to do, match my horse. And the way I match Atlas is going to be different from the way I match Zohari. They're different horses, and they're going to have different tendencies. So that is my suggestion for all of you. Your instinct is going to save you in those moments you can't think. And that's going to happen for all of us. But building up to those moments, what you practice is going to be the thing that becomes your instinct. And for me, matching my horse is the thing I practice. It's the thing I practice more than anything I do with horses now, is match my horse. So that when I'm thinking, I can make really good conscious choices of what I do around them, what I ask them to do, and I know it's building the relationship. When I am not thinking, when I go into automatic pilot, those instinctual moments, match my horse is the instinct I want to fall into. So that's my suggestion for all of you today. Thank you for joining me for Tuesday morning tea with Elsa and Atlas and our guest host, Zohari. I'm here every Tuesday morning. If you guys have something you want me to talk about, please let me know. I am happy to do that. I am leaving on a teaching tour. Let's see, I will have one more Tuesday from here in the paddock with Atlas, and then I will be in Europe and Australia and New Zealand teaching. So if you guys are anywhere on my tour, I'd love to see you come by a clinic. And I'll teach you how to not think, or how to think. You know, both are good. We just have to do the right training. Hi, George. I think you give yourself not enough credit. You were very good at thinking, too. I think that all of us just get to acknowledge sometimes we think well, and sometimes we act well. I love that snorting sound so much. So, as you go about your day today, as you go about your week, think about that a little bit. There's your contradiction. Think about your instinct. Think about the things that you do when you're not thinking. And then when you are thinking, give a little time to practicing what you want your default to be. Domenico, I am not going to Italy on this tour, but if someone wanted to host me for Italy next time I travel, I would love to go to Italy. So I'm going to leave you guys on this thought of instinct versus thinking action. Practice what you want your instinct to be, whatever that is for you. Atlas and I are going to practice being matching as our instinct. We're also going to practice moving closer to each other as instinct instead of running away. There's a number of things we practice, but what are your defaults when you're not thinking? So, if you guys think of something really good along these lines, instinct versus thinking, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear. And have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. I'll be here next Tuesday for Tuesday morning tea with Elsa and Atlas. And who knows, maybe Zohari will join us again as well. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.